Hi everyone, we will be starting in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. We'll just give it another minute for some additional people to join. All right, hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining today's MERC session, All in the Family, the Softer Side to Relocation, presented by Jennifer Christensen, Managing Director of IPR, and Patience Howley, Director of Global Client Development of Impact Group, and moderated by myself, Melanie Robertson. Before we get started, I wanted to provide just a few updates. The board will be having a strategy meeting this week, which includes putting together a plan, some additional events during the remainder of this year. So please watch for more details on that. Also, we have gone ahead and booked our venue for our 2021 MERC conference in the hopes that we are all able to meet in person. That date, if you want to mark that down, is scheduled for February 23rd. And don't forget, we always have a welcome reception the night before, which is always very well attended. So like I said, keep watch for more details to come on that. Also, we are going to have Brenda Thoney Johnson provide some special thanks to our sponsors.
Certainly. And before we actually get into those thank yous, I just want to go over just a couple quick notes. Attendees, you are in listen-only mode, but we would love to hear from you. So please feel free to add your questions in the Q&A box as we go, and we will get to as many of those questions as possible at the end of the presentation. For those that we are unable to get to, if we run out of time, we will be sure to have Patience and Jennifer answer those, and we will get those out to all that participated. And then finally, this session is approved for 1 credit. We will be posting the application form on the MERC website, and we will send out an email as well with a link to that. So definitely watch for that if you're looking to get those CRP and GMS credits. Thank you to our sponsors. We could not do what we do without you. And while we're not in person, we do want to continue to honor those organizations that have supported MERC for the 2020 year. And so our first sponsor is AAA Movers, Action Moving Services, Inc., Alexander's Mobility Services, Altair Global, Beltman Relocation Group, Bristol Global Mobility, Cardis, Champion International Moving, Chase, Complete Corporate, Creative Housing Solutions, Dwellworks, Express Corporate Housing, Basenden Realtors, Fidelity Residential Solutions, Fragment Worldwide, Global Tax Network, Home Services Relocation, Relo Solutions Group, Relocity, Make It MSP, National Corporate Housing, NEI Global Relocation, Old Republic Relocation Services, Pods for Business, Quicken Loans, and Linda Mulligan with Remax Results, Serva Worldwide Relocation and Moving, Stewart Title and Relocation Services, Sudis, TIAA Bank, US Bank, V Suites, Wells Fargo Home Mortgage, and these were our Walleye sponsors. Again, they've already all been named, just a quick peek at those. Our Goldie Gopher sponsors as well. That was the next tier. A special shout out to our welcome reception sponsor, Stewart Title and Express Corporate Housing. That was for the annual conference in February. Our Land of 10,000 Lakes, there were 4 of these sponsors: Bristol Global Mobility, Relocity, Quicken Loans, and US Bank. Our end of the day networking event sponsor was Alexander's Moving Mobility Services. Our lanyard badge sponsor was Old Republic Relocation Services. And our parking sponsor was Global Tax Network. Again, thank you so much to our great sponsors. Your generosity is very, very much appreciated, and it allows us to do all of the amazing events that we're hoping, as Melanie mentioned, to do as we move forward. We are going to move forward then. Melanie's going to get things started. Jennifer and Patience are going to pop up on your screen, and we hope that you enjoy the presentation today. Melanie, go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Okay, so for those of you just joining, hello, and thanks so much for joining today's MERC session on the family, the softer side to relocation, presented by Jennifer Christensen, Managing Director of IPR, and Patience Howley, Director of Global Client Development of Impact Group, and moderated by myself, Melanie Robertson. Oftentimes, there are misconceptions between destination services and spousal assistance support, and oftentimes people have a hard time understanding what these services are and how these services are different, but also how they complement each other. So we're going to start with Jennifer. So Jennifer, can you tell me what exactly are destination services and why are they considered a soft service?
Sure. So destination services, it's a big term, and it's an umbrella term that includes arrival and departure support for the relocating employee as well as the accompanying family. Although it's been dubbed destination services because the support is specific to living in that destination, it's often mistakenly called settling in services to encompass all of the components. And it's really understandable because settling in and getting settled and well acclimated to the location is the ultimate goal for the relocating employee and the family, as well as for them to thrive in their relocation. But in relo terms, settling in support is just one component of the typical 5 destination service categories that include area orientations, home finding, school search, settling in and ongoing support, and departure services. So the value that these quote unquote soft services bring to not only the relocating employee and their family, but as well as the client company really has to do with making the relocation successful and making sure that the relocating employee and their family are happy and that the employee can focus on the job at hand so that the company realizes their return on the investment. We all know that this is a really big chunk, the cost of relocation. So every little step that we all do collectively within relocation makes it so important. So the value of destination services is about providing relevant and meaningful information. So the relocating employee and their family can make informed decisions regarding living and working in an unfamiliar and new location. And this part's really key, in a very short amount of time. These folks don't have the luxury of living in the area before they have to make some really critical life choices. And that can be a really daunting task. So having that local insider and professional knowledge helps them formulate the right plan, the right steps, so they can make the informed decisions for a successful relocation. And there's some really good examples of the value destination services provides. I want to go into a few examples, but not be too wordy. So I know that we may need to ask some questions after, and I'm happy to provide a lot more detail after if there's specific questions about how the value it can bring. So one of the things that is important to remember, let's just use an area orientation as an example. The area orientation is commonly marketed as a way to showcase the destination, but we really need to remember that rather than showcasing the destination, what we're doing is highlighting what the destination has to offer that meets the relocating employees and their families' needs. So it's not all about the destination, it's about how the destination is well matched with their needs. And will this be a successful location for this employee and their family to live? The most effective orientations start with an interactive pre-arrival consultation. And sometimes folks are busy and they don't want to take the time to do that. Or, let's just land and talk with the destination service consultant then. But an effective orientation really needs to start pre-arrival so that we can assess needs, get to know the relocating employee and their family, and then help them see the value of the relocation and moving to that destination. So the other thing to keep in mind that an effective orientation is not necessarily a 1 or 2 or even 3-day tour sitting in a car. It can be a focused and personalized orientation that is either accompanied, perhaps in a car and driving around the metro location, but we really see some effective prepared tours that are delivered in a virtual format. So it's important to remember that effectiveness does not equal accompaniment. Effectiveness means prepared and coming up with a focused and relevant group of them or curated information.
Thank you. Patience, this next question is for you. Can you tell us exactly what is spousal and family assistance, and what does a spousal and family assistance provider do?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Spousal assistance began actually as job search assistant to help the employees avoid the loss of their spouse and partner's income when they moved. And it was a big hit back then, and it worked. It meant more employees were willing to move and stay in their new jobs. But soon we recognized the need went far beyond job search. So Impact led the way in adding integration assistance. And that broadly means helping the family integrate and put down roots in their new location. So when you think of integration, it's just helping the family get integrated. So today, when you see spousal assistance or spousal support in a policy, remember, this can be much, much more than just job search assistance. That's actually one of the misconceptions about the service. It's a very holistic approach to enhancing the employee and the family experience. To accomplish this, we offer a blended program that combines the coaching for the job along with the coaching for the family or the integration. Our coaches help people think through what is important to everyone who is moving and how the move will affect them. The coach helps figure out how to address everyone's needs in the new location. So for example, for the employee, it may be, how will I adjust to my new team? Where will I volunteer? For the kids, it may be, is there competitive football there? Are there theater groups? For the spouse and partner, It may be something similar, or the all important question, will I be able to find a job? So our coaches help people with the things that will make the new destination or the new country home. In short, spousal assistance is a holistic approach that supports every member of the family. And then you ask, what is the value and kind of how do we bring value? The value of the service, I think, is extensive. I was just thinking maybe we visualize two different wheels with many spokes, and they have to run together in order for things to run smoothly. So when you look at the coaching aspect for the career side, it could look like um, a tailored career plan, helping the spouse or partner with job search strategy, giving them access to daily job leads, targeting companies for research, webinars online in reference to content around employment, coaching entrepreneurs, or if they're getting ready to start a new career. It also entails things like branding, incorporating their brand and their CV into their social media aspect, obviously helping them develop a resume or a CV, cover letters, getting those things embedded in the resume to get it past the applicant tracking system online, the social media strategy, leveraging LinkedIn, helping them network, and teaching them the art of networking, actually prepare on the networking side. And then interview prep, salary negotiation, all of that is part of that wheel as far as coaching for the spousal partner. The other wheel, in reference to integration, could look like quite a few different things. So the coach would offer value like developing a relocation plan, helping the family prioritize the needs, establishing goals and timelines, helping them work through change, talking about and coaching through the stages of transition, guidance on what to expect and how to process all of the change. Obviously, research in their new community, specialized focus pieces like elder care, or if there's an active senior that's moving with them. Are there any special needs children that need particularly detailed research? So that's a piece of the integration as well, along with coaching to establish healthy habits and strategies to help develop and engage in new routines, um, identifying any cultural norms, identifying any language resources, whatever it is that they need, connecting with others, developing and engaging new relationships. So ultimately, when you look at these two wheels, it helps the entire family unit, not just move and relocate, but actually thrive and put down roots in that new location. So that's the value.
Thank you. It's helpful to understand the differences, but it also really illustrates the fact that there's significant alignment between the two as well. It would be a good partnership. Okay. So Jennifer, we're going to start with you for this question. So how has destination services evolved through the years, considering our current environment? What has changed? You're muted. Webinar bingo.
Sorry about that. So I think a better question is what hasn't changed, but we'll start with kind of a timeline around, oh, I don't know, pre-mid 2000 or years ago. Destination services was often a relo benefit included with high-level moves, strictly for those types of senior level executives, 5, 6 plus day comprehensive programs that included all arrival service components, everything you could imagine from soup to nuts. That was the norm. And even if the relocating employee may not have needed all of those services or wanted a full program, the full program that was authorized by their company, it was still common for every relocating employee to get that same package. And it was really that approach of one size fits all, where they authorize the same program for everyone. Maybe there might be some differences if there was a family with children versus a single relocating employee, but it was really, there wasn't a whole lot of room for customization. There was just a lot of time. Over the years, the growing trend really has been to right-size services. And I think that obviously this is probably cost-driven, but it was also driven to provide a better experience for the relocating employee. And this has helped our industry realize that flexibility is key. Not everybody wants that really robust accompanied program. What we see most often now, today, is a 3-day accompanied program. And it doesn't always specify what services must be delivered. It's the relocating employee has this amount of time, and they get to prioritize their needs with their local expert, which is really a nice way for them to use their time and customize their services. We're thrilled to see this growing allowance for flexible solutions, and it's really teed off the industry and our sector of the industry to move into even a wider spectrum of services, including virtual support. And that's not to say that accompanied support is going to go away, because there needs to be that right balance between technology and on demand to some live support. So we see a really nice combination with the hybrid of live and in person, as well as utilizing technology. More recently, and probably due to the situation that we're in, we are seeing our clients really show interest in the virtual service and our expanded suite of services for that reason, because it's a necessity right now. And this has helped be able to continue delivering services when we can't go out and meet the relocating employee right now because of COVID. And I think it's also a great way for us to be able to think ahead and not really worry about how are we going to bounce back from this, but thinking about how can we bounce forward and use what we've learned during this horrible situation. But I think we've come to realize that, hey, you know what, there's a lot of workarounds and there's a lot of ways that we can do things differently. So what we expect and what we started to see a little bit even before COVID happened is that because there's some cost-effective solutions, we're seeing destination services being offered to a wider variety of relocating employees, not super high-level relocating employees, not just the mid-level managers, but also entry-level employees that may not have gotten any type of support in the past. It's also affordable for those who have lump sums. They may say, you know, I just want a little help. I don't need that full support, but I would like to know that I have that local area expert available to help me if I need a lifeline. So it's really, it's evolved. We've used technology, but I think it's evolved really about the customer experience and the right size that we need to deliver for those relocating employees.
Jennifer, we got a question that is very relevant to what you were just talking about. So rather than wait till the end, if it's okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you.
Yep.
And have you respond to that. This question is from Marilee. It says, Jennifer, with the increase in virtual tours due to COVID, what are your thoughts around the essentials you believe that will make a virtual tour very effective for an assignee and their spouse and family, if applicable, of course? And what should the assignee be asking to be included in their virtual tours to get the most out of them versus what they would experience in person?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to go about this, but so how I started thinking about this was about, 10 years ago, and I was on vacation and we did a tour and it was completely mapped out. We had our smartphones, and not only could we walk around, somebody plotted this out for us and gave us all of the information about the points of interest. So think about that with an area orientation. There's a couple ways this can happen. Let's just say that the family they're not here yet. They're still in their home location. They can't travel. It's just not possible. So how can they start familiarizing themselves with a location? Maybe they're trying to decide if they want to accept the job, take the move. So what can they do? So what we have done is on our platform, we have a mapping technology, and we would still employ the same pre-arrival consultation with the relocating employee, the spouse, the family, go through the whole needs assessment, and find out what's important to them so that we can develop a virtual tour that's mapped, that has thumbnail videos. So for instance, let's just say somebody is moving, I'm going to use Colorado, Denver as an example. And where they're going to work, they know we've identified some of the key locations. So we've provided them with our area guide that has all of the locations throughout the Denver metro area. We've plotted where their work is, so they know that the 30-minute commute radius. And they've identified some key locations that really sound interesting based on their lifestyle. And we can include thumbnail videos for different locations as well as some sample housing versus when we would hop in a car together and drive around, look at this, hop out, go look at a house, go see a school, see where the work is, see where the shopping, the medical facilities are. We would do that all plotted on a map that they can follow along and see through video. Now, the other option is, let's just say they're here and they have their own car. They're not quite, nobody wants to get in a car together. So we can do the same thing where we plot out the map. It provides them directions from point A to point B to point C. And along the way, it gives them a description of each of these points of interest and why it's relevant to their tour. So that's another option. We've done that where our area consultant is doing it with them via FaceTime. We had one situation where there was 2 cars driving. The area consultant was in one car and they were on speakerphone with a relocating employee in another car chatting. And this was in a small town. So the logistics of it worked, but there are so many options of how we can do this, as long as we can remember that the accompanied support is not the only way we can be effective. It just takes collaboration and communication and that consultative approach.
When I heard Marilee's question, it's as customizable as it needs to be for that particular family. Great, thank you. Patience, how has spousal assistance and family assistance evolved throughout the years? And then same question I asked to Jennifer, how, given our current environment, what has changed?
Absolutely. I've been in the industry 24 years, believe it or not, and I've seen quite a few changes as we transition. Spousal assistance, to be honest, used to be, excuse me, kind of like a nice to add service. But with households being dual income these days, it's absolutely essential. I recently looked at a survey from Atlas Corporate Relo, and it shared that 66% of the companies now include spousal partner employment assistance as part of their policy. That same survey also reported that 64% of companies believe that spouse partner employment almost always or frequently affects employee relocations, which is far higher than companies would have reported about 12 years ago. So that number one and number two reason employees pause in reference to relocation is tightly wrapped around the spouse, the partner, the employment side, and then the family. And fortunately, our services actually support that, which is great. Impact's service model has always been virtual because we provide domestic and global support. Our strategy has always been to marry that personal touch with technology. So while we've always offered the face-to-face option as far as coaching and working through the programs, COVID-19 has definitely impacted the way we coach these days. We've always offered, again, the face-to-face back when it was WhatsApp and Skype, now via Zoom, which we're using today. But they are really taking advantage of the face-to-face, which is nice. So we've been able to accomplish that and marry the technology with that personal one-on-one, that connecting, that true engagement, that facial expression, all of that, I think is becoming more important as we continue to relate to each other, especially during these times. One other thing, I think in our current environment, our coaches are sharing a lot of content and coaching really strongly around how to find a job in this particular market. For the industries that are on pause, and there are quite a few, we're coaching the spouses and partners to really take advantage of that time to hone their skills, to fine-tune their networking strategies, to expand their network, to really engage in your social media presence, so when those industries open back up, you are prepared and ready. Now, on the flip side of that, keeping in mind that there's still a lot of industries that are hiring. Sometimes we go, oh my goodness, everybody is on pause, but that is definitely not so. So just a few of those industries like healthcare and pharmacy, financial, telework software, IT, tech support, and I'm realizing the more I work from home, all of us are not as smart as our devices. So I really do need some additional support as we're working from home. But then, and then there's the manufacturing industry as well. So our coaches are really coaching to the climate, helping them get through the stresses of the climate, and then preparing for when this new normal will take place. So that's just some of them.
New normal. Isn't that
The
right?
new normal.
Thank you. All right. What are, Jennifer, this one, we'll start with you. What are a few of the unknown benefits or misconceptions of destination services? You're muted again. The tech support, right? Right, patience, we need it.
No, right?
Somebody to manage that for me. That's my helper. So I'm going to start with the unknown benefits. And I think that the misconceptions, I'd be interested to hear if anybody has questions about, does a destination service provider do this, or does spousal support do that? So I can answer that, but I have a list of what we readily see as misconceptions as well. So some of the unknown benefits that I don't think people realize or are underutilized as destination service support goes is the pre-arrival counseling and collaboration. I've mentioned it a couple times because for a relocating employee, and especially their family, to realize the full benefit of the services, it's super important that they are working with their local destination service provider prior to arrival. They lose out a lot and almost about 50% effectiveness when they wait until they arrive. So the idea is to have this pre-arrival counseling and collaboration pre-arrival, not only to set expectations so they don't hit the ground just completely surprised and hopefully not unpleasantly surprised, but to be able to really utilize their time. And it's super important. Those first couple of weeks are really important in setting the stage for the rest of the duration of their time in that location. So we want it to go smoothly. We wanted to be able to have a timeline plan for them based on their needs, work schedule, family schedule. We want to be able to have resources readily available for them when they land. The other underutilized or unknown benefit is that as a destination service provider, by no means are we a cost of living allowance company. We don't even know how to crunch those kind of numbers by any means. But we actually work in a lot of markets and we are working in them frequently. So we have rental snapshots or rental market snapshots that are used to help determine if the housing allowance affords the appropriate rental options based on what they want, what the company wants for their relocating employee. This includes rent ranges, it includes rental nuances, which is super important, especially when we're getting into challenging markets like New York City or San Francisco. We want to make sure that those expectations are set ahead of time, not only for the relocating employee, but for their employer as well. And the rent ranges are really helpful, especially if they're broken down by level of employee, apartment versus house versus number of bedrooms. So that's a really helpful tool that I don't think that a lot of our clients always realize that we have unless we tell them or they ask for it. Another underutilized resource are our area guides. Our area guides are developed and published by IPR. They are a curated resource that's specific to a relocating employee, both domestic as well as international. These aren't just visitor guides that show you all the really cool and pretty things in that city. They've got really practical information about schools and about other amenities that folks need, whether it's medical support. And it also has really practical information that we forget about Social Security and driver's license, or if it's a domestic move, where the family can find things that we just forget that are needed when you move from city to city or state to state. So that is an underutilized resource. We do have it online now, and we are seeing a lot more use. We can actually monitor the interaction, so to speak, with the area guide and the relocating employee. So we're seeing a big uptick in that now that it's really convenient and easily accessible. Another underutilized service, I would say, of destination services is that we often are a great resource. So for instance, when we're working with that relocating employee, and often our area consultant is one of the few folks that they're meeting in person or having face-to-face conversations with. And so they'll ask questions like, how can I get a job? Can you help me with a resume? Or can you point me in the right direction of where I can look for a job? And that's really not our specialty, but we know that there are companies that do that. So we love to be able to say, hey, here's where we can help you. I mean, yeah, there's probably some general online resources that you can use, but if you really want to have an effective job search, there are professionals, and being that resource for not only the relocating employee, but our clients as well. And then the last unknown benefit that I think folks just take for granted is when we're doing a rental search, we do a full property vetting of that property to ensure that the relocating employee is not only getting the best lease terms possible for them, and that is a fair and reasonable lease for that market, but we're vetting the owner, we're confirming ownership, we're verifying taxes are current, and we're making sure not only is the diplomatic clause included in the lease, but other preferred clauses, whether they're foreclosure clauses to protect the tenant or a death of a spouse clause to make sure that they can get out of a lease. So there's all these little hidden behind the scene things that we're doing that the relocating employee may not always understand unless we really directly or specifically point out, here's what we're going to do for you now. We just do it so they don't have to worry about it and it doesn't bite them later or throughout the terms of their assignment. Are there any questions about, so we can have some real misconceptions?
Well, I do have a question. Stephanie asked to you, Jennifer, what are the area guides available in more rural areas in addition to more populated areas? Were you able to cover not just the busy spots? Are you able to go into the more remote areas?
Yeah, actually, we we cover most major metro locations and some not so major metro locations. Go in wherever our clients need us. We just recently set up services, or actually it's been about a year now, in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And everybody thinks, where is Pittsfield, Massachusetts? If you say the Berkshires, they know where it is. But anyway, we had a need, our client had a need. We went in there and set up a complete area guide and rental search program so that those folks that were moving there with this specific employer had that guided support they need. So absolutely, we do that all of the time. And even if the area guide is not fully published, because let's face it, we sometimes get these urgent, we need somebody there tomorrow or next week, we might not have time to publish an area guide. So we really lean on our local area consultant, that local expert, to provide the information that is in the area guide if it's not quite ready.
Thank you. And Patience, what about you? What are a few of the unknown benefits to spousal family assistance and some of the misconceptions?
Sure, I'll go ahead and start with the misconceptions, and we get this one all the time, that, oh, they can provide you with a resume. And that's kind of where our services, the begin all, end all. And hopefully some of the information that I shared with you earlier when we were talking about the wheel kind of dismisses that. We're able to provide and support so much more than that. The heavy coaching, the brainstorming, the career piece, along with some of the tangibles, but actually really positioning that spouse and partner to succeed in that job search. The other one is that we guarantee a job. And that is a huge misconception. If there was a company that did that, I'd be buying stock, and I would suggest you guys do it as well. But that is not something that we're able to do. What we do is provide tools to enhance the job search. But obviously there are no guarantees in life. And if you go back, I don't want to continue to repeat, but when you're looking at how we are able to support, and that wheel example that I gave you, there are so many spokes to that. I think we are very efficient in preparing the spouse and partner to walk in and land that particular opportunity. And we equip them so. And not just equip them, but as we're going through the process to help, we teach them how to find a job. And that's even more important. We're able to stay with them until they land, depending on how the policy is written. But one of the misconceptions, obviously, is that we guarantee a job. Oh, just call them and they'll open up their database and match you up. And it just doesn't work like that. The other is that we only help spouses and partners. And I say that because when we talk about the integration, we really do take a very holistic approach to making sure that every member of that family is addressed. Their concerns are addressed, their feelings, their anxiousness, their anxiety, their what ifs. We really take time to develop a very strong rapport to make sure that the family knows that they are supported. A lot of times we act as a confidential third party. There are some things that go on within that family dynamic that the company does not necessarily need to know. So we are a trusted partner in that as well. And there are as many dynamics that go on within our families as, you know, as we are individuals. So that is, I think, a misconception that all we do is help the spouse and partner. What we actually do is help the whole family. In reference to some of the unknown benefits, I think, again, that family experience where we're really taking time to make sure that the children's needs are taken care of. Even if one of the examples, and I used to be a coach, by the way, one of the examples I had was we had an individual that was moving with a young boy who was turning into a young man. And he was very, very adamant about not wanting to leave his family, his circle, his grandparents, and he had some very legitimate concerns. During the course of the coaching, I discovered that he liked Taekwondo. So what we did was, during the house hunting trips, we arranged for him to just have a complimentary visit, and 2 of the facilities offered a complimentary lesson. So after that, he was helping his parents plan the move. He wanted to know when the next house hunting trip was. And it was just tapping into those little things that really helped that family unit go, okay, we can do this. So that's one of the misconceptions. The other is the heavy coaching really provides support through one of the most stressful, I think, life events. I know it's kind of a relocation, as you guys know, it's kind of up there with grief. I hate to say that, but it is a tearing away of your community, of your foundation, of your circle, of those things that are familiar to you. So when we talk about integration, we really try to help them set up roots and put down just roots again. The third thing I wanted to quickly mention is one of the misconceptions is that the unknown benefit is we accept and we support singles. I think sometimes in that relocation process, singles kind of get overlooked because they're moving for a job. So they think, oh, that's all they need. But there are so many other things that helps them get comfortable in their new location. And we are able to help support that. Sometimes when you're moving as a couple or as a family, you have other people to offset some of those things, to find out where your doctor or where, whatever it is that you are fond of, those types of things. And the other part to that is, although singles may be single on paper and through HR, sometimes they have custody of the kids during the summer. Sometimes kids are coming to visit during spring break. So there are plenty of needs in reference to when you're relocating and you're single, and we help provide that type of support as well. So sometimes that's one of the hidden unknown benefits. And then I wanted to piggyback on what Jennifer said. We act as a resource as well. We get a lot of questions in reference to, do you do that? And then we're able to point them in the right direction or refer to a partner that complements our services like DSP as well. So, and I'm interested as well if there's anyone that have any questions on, oh my gosh, does spousal assistance and family integration cover that as well?
Yeah, so you had given an example. So just to your coaching services that you provide, obviously moves are happening, US to, somewhere else within the world, vice versa, and also domestically. But you'd given an example during one of our first conversations, which I think would be good for you to tell. Someone was, and I don't remember if it was it must have been the partner was relocating, and they had brought some business cards. And it was, they didn't understand the local customs as to how you apply for a job, or the format where it's a CV or resume or what have you. And do you remember that story?
I do, and I'd be more than happy to elaborate on it. You're coming in a little faint. That's why I was trying to listen in. That's okay.
Sorry, tell the business card story.
That's on the global side. I mentioned
Yes.
that Impact does domestic and global support as well. But we were trying to coach this particular young man in reference to the job search process. And when you move from country to country, it's very different. Some countries have curriculum vitas where their picture is on it. They have their hobbies, they have their age, because that's the way things are done there. And where we were trying to coach this particular gentleman on the way you go about an employment search is a little different. Well, he had all these cards made up and he was networking and handing out things. And we all know that technology is just not like that anymore. And on the flip side of that, when you're in some of the other countries, the way you actually hand your business card is a big deal. So you're talking about cultural norms, and we do this a lot because we network. We'll just take somebody's card at ERC and we'll just put it, with the rest of them. But sometimes in specific cultures, it's appropriate to take it with both hands, look at it, and show that respect, because that's related to them, to their culture, to their job, to their worth. So there are a lot of dynamics when it comes to coaching in almost every aspect. So I think that was the one that we shared. It's been a time ago, but I think that was it.
Just little things like that appear to be little or insignificant are actually pretty significant. So it's helpful
Exactly.
that those things and you're able to coach them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this next one is for you, patients.
Okay.
How can companies temper the expectation that the employee's employer will also employ their partner or spouse?
Sure.
That one's a common one, right?
Yeah, actually it is. That is sometimes it is an expectation, and it occurs sometimes when the company is large, or the company is the biggest company in that area that they're relocating to. Impact actually tempers that expectation by working very, very closely with the spouse and partner to reset that expectation and to clarify the spouse and the partner's individual career goals. We will put a very robust job search strategy in place, and the assigned coach would have a lot of conversations around their skill set, their employment goals, their future state, and where they want their career to go. Together, they would create a targeted list of companies, and that particular company that the employee works at may be on the list as well, but it definitely will not be the primary focus in reference to that. The guidance, the coaching would not be focused on a specific company, but where the spouse or partner wants to go. Where there's growth, where there's an opportunity to be found, where they can be challenged, and ultimately where the job fulfillment is. So we kind of help them reimagine what their skill set is and where it can fit. Sometimes when spouses are so intent on focusing on one particular company, that kind of narrows the job search. So we're able to kind of help them and guide them through broadening their experience. One of the things in our company, and we share this freely, that our experience has shown that in a 2-income family, with our services being included as a support for the spouse and partner, they're often able to find employment 2.5 times faster than without having a partner in that job search. So, and oftentimes the positions that are found are comparable, and oftentimes the income is even more than what they previously had. So just having that secondary coach to make sure that that expectation is reset, and then put steps in place to make sure that the job fulfillment is there. That's one of them.
We had spoken, I think it was yesterday actually, about, so a question was, what do we recommend to partners for keeping up their skill sets, right? So a lot of times we'll have 2 professionals going on assignment. Well, one is going on assignment, but the one professional is giving up or placing their career on hold to accompany their partner on this opportunity. What you had talked about yesterday about sort of a customization to a provision within the policy
Right.
about spousal assistance. And I hadn't, to me, it was always an exception that was requested for those maintaining licenses. And so can you tell us a little bit about what that's called and
Sure.
what that, I think that would be valuable for a member.
We actually got into a little bit on the global discussion, and Impact offers what we call career continuation assistance, and it's specifically designed for those who are not eligible or interested in acquiring a job in the new country, but they want to return to the workforce in the future. So we have and it's layered into the domestic program. So if we're providing job support and not necessarily integration, this can be part of the career continuation. So we recommend a couple of things to help them keep their skills up to date. Maintaining their professional identity. That's one of the things that they can focus on, and we can help them with that. Developing their professional contacts, expanding from existing and new contacts. Get involved with volunteer organizations. That's something that they can do and still be productive and still be engaged. So that year abroad or that year when they're not able to work due to visa concerns is still fruitful. Identification and identify speaking or freelance opportunities, continuing to take career continuation courses to enhance their education, and identifying networking groups, expat groups. So there are a lot of things that can be done during that time where a spouse or partner may not be able to find employment due to visa concerns.
Thank you. I have a question for you from Marilee. Okay, I worked for a company that provided impact services as a benefit, but now that lump sums are provided and it is up to the assignee to manage where they spend those funds, how does Impact Group help with communications should an assignee want to go direct to get their spouse or partner support? The concern is that the assignees often do not understand the program and the cost. So education is so important so that they do not come back, of course, to the company complaining. It's always different when it's out of their own pocket, right? How have you managed these communications to keep the program separate from the company, but as a resource referral?
That's a really good question, and I'm glad somebody brought up lump sums, because that's something that we all have a challenge with. Impact has a retail side of the house, and whenever we get clients that or spouses or partners that want to use our support services, but it's not part of their regular relocation package, they are introduced to the service from a retail perspective. We do
What, I'm sorry, can you explain what that means from a
from the
retail
retail.
perspective?
That means that they would pay us directly. The invoice would go directly to the spouse or partner. They would pay for it via credit card. And the invoice would not go to the RMC or directly back to the company. It is a one-to-one relationship. So when they approach us and they want to use our services as a retail aspect, there's a whole nother avenue that we go down. And part of that is introducing and allowing them to select which pieces of the service they feel will benefit them most. Price it out, and then they know exactly, I'm spending X amount of dollars on this. They're connected with a coach, and then the coach takes them through that particular piece. So it's never tied back to the relocation management company or the direct corporate client.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left, so if anybody has any questions, get those typed up so that we can get you a response. In the meantime, Jennifer, if it's okay, I've got a question for you. How do destination services, how does that differ from working with a real estate agent or an education consultant or an intercultural trainer?
Yeah, so we work alongside all of those partner companies, and we touch on each of those services. And I think how we differ is that those individual companies, or let's just say a real estate agent, when we're typically working with folks moving into an area looking to rent properties, we rarely are working with folks that are looking to buy. So if we're helping with a rental search, or a home search, it's typically a rental search. And in the majority of the metro locations throughout the US, or majority of the rental markets throughout the US, real estate agents rarely are working in that part of the home market. So we differ that we're going to help the relocating employee navigate their rental search. We're preparing them for what to expect, what it's going to look like, what's customary, what's fair, what's reasonable in that area. But if we are working in a market that real estate agents actually do work in the rental market, we absolutely love working with real estate agents. So we'll partner with a real estate agent to support that rental search. But what we do and what's different is that we are still that one point of contact for the relocating employee. Our area consultant that's helping them with their orientation and all of their settling in and integration and their school search is really going to be the contact for the real estate agent. And they're going to be providing, they're going to gather the listings, they're going to pre-select what's most appropriate for that relocating employee and match it with all of their other needs that we've come up with collectively with them, so that they're not just getting hundreds of listings, but they're getting a curated list of pre-selected properties. So that's one way that we would work alongside a real estate agent versus just strictly destination services where we aren't licensed real estate agents. The other difference is that we don't collect a referral fee or any type of commission on a rental search. The most commonly, I would say, the most common misconception about destination services really comes up with education or a school search. And what's the difference between a destination services school search service versus an educational consultant? And that's a question that we get all the time, and we love answering it because we think that it's super important that a family gets the support they need. And oftentimes we can provide the typical area overview of all that the location has to offer, whether it's public schools and private schools, and how to decipher their ratings, and to understand their admissions process and what tuition fees look like if it's private schools. But when it comes to a really specialized school search, that requires an academic assessment of that child and their placement, as well as perhaps a cross-curriculum comparison. So let's just say that the family's moving from the UK, they're going to be in the US for a few years, but they need to get that child back to the UK and they need to stay on the right curriculum. That's where an educational consultant is going to be super important to make sure that that family's long-term plan is set. So those are some key differences. And like I said, we certainly work in conjunction with all of these folks every step of the way.
Thank you. We are at time. So if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask, go ahead and shoot those in the queue and we will make sure that we get a response to you after the session is over. Again, thanks so much, Jennifer. Thanks so much, Patience, for joining us today. This was really helpful and hopefully our members found it informative as well. So have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Bye, everybody. Be well.